Hi there! I just thought I'd make a quick tutorial to show you how to make these fab paper bows. I learnt how to make them at the weekend, and as you can see I've already made quite a few. They're a great way to use up your paper scraps, and of course you can make them to match any project that you might want to put them on. You can make them in lots of different sizes. The biggest one I've made so far started out as a 5-inch square, and this teeny tiny one started life as a 2-inch square. It was a little bit fiddly, but it's worth it. Isn't it cute? I'm going to show you how to make the bow using a 5-inch square, just so you can see what I'm doing. And for the purpose of this tutorial and to help make it clear to you, I'm using a paper that's got two very different patterns on each side. This sunflower side is going to be the wrong side of my bow, and this dog's tooth is going to be the right side. So starting with the right side of your paper against your craft mat, you're going to fold your square into a triangle. Now the best thing that you can do while you're making these bows is to make sure that all your creases are nice and sharp, so use a bone folder to do that. Something else to remember, this is a graphic 45 paper, so quite a lightweight cardstock, not too heavy, but some of the coated papers tend to crack when you fold them. If you think your paper's going to do that, give it a little spray with some water on both sides, not too much, just a slight dampening of the paper, and then dry it off with a bit of kitchen roll, or as I tend to do on my cardie. It's definitely only a light spritz with water, don't overdo it, otherwise you'll make your paper soggy and you won't be able to do anything with it. But it's just enough to make those fibres a little bit more pliable, and it will help prevent that cracking that occurs on some papers. Open out that first fold and then fold again in the opposite direction. So you create an X or a cross to the four corners of the square. Open your paper up and turn it so that it's flat rather than diagonal, and the wrong side is now on your craft mat, and fold the square in half lengthways, open it up and turn it over and fold it again. So this time you're creating, or you're dividing your square into quarters. Remember that the sunflower side is the wrong side. Now you've created 4 squares and you want to put 2 of those squares together and then just push in on these 2 diagonal folds. They'll go in. So flatten it out and then use your bone folder to press those folds into place. The more accurate you are, the better the bow will be when you've finished folding. Now you want to position your square so that the point, the closed end of the square, is at the top of the square when you place it in a diamond shape. So trying to keep your diamond level, fold over approximately 1/2 inch on that point. And obviously this is quite a chunky fold now, so you're going to need to press it down well. And then once you've sure that you've marked that fold, open it up and open up your square. This might be a little bit difficult to see on camera, but you've now created a square fold in the centre of your paper. This is the most tricky part of the whole process, and what we're going to do is try and make that little square pop to the inside, a little bit like a tummy button is the best way to describe it. Now I find it best to go around and pinch those sides of that square into shape and then gently press with your finger on that centre. Remembering there's a lot of folds going on here, it'd be quite easy to rip if you're not careful, and then fold it back into the original shape, diamond shape. This time your point is disappeared to the inside of your diamond. Once you've mastered this step of the process, the rest of the bow is really quite simple. That is the trickiest step. So you've got a little indentation at the top of your diamond shape. Now we're going to create a fold that follows the centre line of the diamond, and you're going to fold each wing so that that top line follows the centre fold, and that creates a strip probably about 1/4 of an inch on this size of a piece of paper. Again, that top section is a little bit of a thick area of folds, so just make sure you press it down well. Then flip your diamond shape over and fold those flaps to that centre line, so both sides of the diamond are the same. Now you're going to open out back into a square, so go to your open end and take hold of 2 sides of the diamond and open up. Just press on that centre section to flatten it out. That's going to become the centre of your bow when you've finished. Then flip your paper over to the other side and we're ready to make our first cut. So working on the wrong side, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to slip them into that fold that you can see, and you're going to cut up to where the fold changes direction. And then you're going to repeat that on the other side of, sorry, going a bit off camera here. On the other side of the diamond, and you'll know you've cut far enough when you've loosened that diamond shape enough to be able to lift it up freely without tearing the paper. So if you're not sure where you're cutting up to, just take your time and lift the diamond shape, and if you can lift it all the way, you know you've gone far enough. If you can't, just tuck your scissors in to the fold again and cut a little bit higher up the fold. You need scissors that can cut all the way to their end because you're going into quite a small area, a tight area at the top. So you should be able to do this when you've finished cutting. So keeping one of those flaps folded over, we're going to begin work on folding the bow. So taking this straight edge, you're going to fold it so that it follows the fold line that you've already created previously. So folding into the centre and following the diagonal line. Take a little bit of time here, because if you end up with a gap at this point, when you fold your final bow into place, it will look a bit messy. I'm just trying to get the little point. I seem to have gone a little bit off the fold there, so there we go, that's better. So it should come to a point at the top, and then you're going to take the underneath section, just pull your tails out of the way for a minute, and it almost looks a bit like a kite shape now at this point. So remember what I said, try and keep that fold so that you can't see any of the wrong side of the paper. So it looks nice and neat, and that fold line is on the centre of each of the sections of the bow, so you want it to be nice and neat. And then you're going to flip it over and repeat that process, taking that straight edge down to follow that diagonal line that you've created in the centre. That went a bit quicker that time. Sometimes the paper just doesn't want to fold where you want it to. And there we go. You can see your bow is beginning to take shape now. Now we're going to work on what will become the tails of the bow when we're finished. So just cut up the central line to where that knot begins. It doesn't matter if the two folds match exactly on the top and the bottom pieces of this. And then you're going to fold the outside edge over, creating a little wedge shape. Again, it doesn't matter if your papers start to move apart at this point. It won't show and it doesn't affect the overall finish of the bow. So again, you're going to fold over this time on that inside line, just creating a small wedge shape, and repeat that on the other side. And then when we flip it over, you can really see your bow beginning to take shape. Now we're just going to trim the tails. So take your scissors and cut exactly like you would a normal ribbon, a V into each of the tails of your paper ribbon. Now if you feel that you'll get a more even cut by drawing this V in with a pencil line before you cut the pieces of paper into shape, then feel free. So we've got one more step to do to finish off our bow. You're going to take a pencil or something similar and you're just going to round and create a bit of a curve into each side. Sorry, I'm disappearing a bit off camera here. Into each side of the paper bow. So rather than creating any folds, it's easier if you just curl it like you would a ribbon around some rounded tool like a pencil. And then you're going to put a tiny dot of glue, and this is a small dot, and I like to do it on the top and the bottom of this very point of the bow. And then you're going to tuck that piece, and there's not much room for manoeuvre, just gently tuck it underneath the very edge of what will become the knot of your bow, and repeat that on the other side. And let go once you're happy your glue has taken hold, and there you have one pretty paper origami bow. Now the next step isn't entirely necessary, but I just thought if you want your bow to lie a little bit flatter and things to be neat, you might want to add a little bit of glue into these back sections of the tails of your ribbon, just to keep all the layers of paper sitting a little bit flatter. It really does depend on what you intend to use them for once you've finished them. I've been making quite a few out of my paper scraps, and I'm putting them to one side because I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to use them on lots of cards and layouts. And the nice thing about them is they end up fairly sturdy. They're not going to flatten too much if you put them into, for instance, a plastic sleeve for a scrapbook. I'm just going to do one here, and you could also add a little bit of glue if you wanted to into the back of the bow. But you can see this one's lying a little bit flatter now that I've glued it into position, and that's the other place where you might want to just add a tiny dot of glue. I really hope you get some use out of this tutorial. These are a fun embellishment to make, and they use up all those scraps of paper that I know you've got lying around. And I want to say a big thank you to Barbara for showing me how to do this, and to Jo, when I got a little bit confused, she showed me where to do my first cuts on my first bow. So a big thank you to both of my friends Barbara and Jo. I really hope you enjoy making your bows, from the big ones to the very little ones. Thank you for watching.